Hi guys, and welcome to a brand new video here on the EGL channel, and thank you for everybody who's been showing great support throughout the last couple of weeks where I've been trying to up the uploads, of course, and plenty of content, Call of Duty mostly, of course, but that's why you're all here, really. I don't really know what I'm talking about in any other sense, and who knows if I know what I'm talking about in Call of Duty as well. Anyway, the announcement came and went on Wednesday, and it was pretty much everything we expected. 5v5 got announced, and amongst other things, the new Pro League format, the new Amateur Circuit format, which I'll be talking about in a later video as well. I think I've got a guest coming on to discuss that one. But first and foremost, I wanted to touch on the fact that there was no rule set announced as of yet. I agree with this decision, to be honest with you, because I mean the game isn't out yet. We haven't had a chance to have a lot of hands-on. I believe they'll probably get some pros in to come into the studio, test some things out, offer their ideas forward. There's still just under a month left to go before the game does come out, so there is time, and the rule set really doesn't need to be announced instantly. We'll give it a couple of weeks after release as well. But at the same time, I'm here to discuss what I think will be the best rule set. And yes, okay, these are all my ideas, so to speak, of a rule set and my opinions, but it wouldn't surprise me to see the CWL lean in this sort of direction. I mean, first and foremost, I'm gonna try and go over a few things that maybe you can skim over a little bit and sort of say to yourself, right, okay, well, it's hard to make these decisions until the game is out. I think that really applies to the whole video, to be honest with you. This is based off what I've seen in the beta. Let's jump in quickly and we'll discuss the weapons first. And I do apologize if I keep looking away at the camera, because I'll be honest, I've had to write this all down because there's a lot to talk about. Let's be honest with you. This week is being full of topics that we can discuss on a daily basis. But first and foremost, I'm going to actually jump into weapons. My biggest issue with the weapons was just the ABR, to be honest with you. The Swordfish was pretty powerful as well, but of the weapons that we've seen so far, I would really like to see the ABR maybe get toned down just a little bit. I felt like every other weapon, the ARs, the SMGs, were well balanced to where they should be. You know, SMGs were better up close, much better up close. The ARs were much better at range. That's how it should be. And for me, I don't think outside of the ABR there was any weapons that we played with that were majorly outstanding. There was a couple that seemed a little bit stronger, but little tweaks here and there changed them throughout the week or two that we had a whole of the beta. So for me, I think the ABR is the one that needs to get nerfed badly. This gun is, for me, very, very good at all ranges, and it tends to be the only one in the pool of guns that we used. I think realistically, if you are dropping people as quick with an ABR up close as what you are at range, it's not feasible to be used in competitive. I want to see that nerfed before we do actually see it in competitive. And I think it will receive a nerf because, to be honest with you, I think it was probably seen by Treyarch to see that these numbers were probably pretty high with it. Everybody knows it should be. For me, other than that, though, the weapons felt pretty good. I will say, though, some of the operator mods I am not 100% happy with. The argument for operator mods is that it does actually take up a lot of slots on your pick 10. So there's that side to argue with it. But for me, I wouldn't be too upset if they decided to just completely remove operator mods. Not every single gun has one on, and I think we'll just end up seeing the same guns over and over again if we go with the operator mods. And on top of that, some of the operator mods are insanely powerful. So for me, I would like to see us move away from operator mods if possible. But if they keep them in, they keep them in. It's not a big deal. I'm pretty much going to leave it there for weapons because, as I said, we haven't actually had hands on every single weapon at this point. We haven't had hands on weapons that we know they're going to stay that way. I know tuning happens constantly, the meta changes constantly, but realistically, there was a lot of tuning went on through the week, so it's hard to get a good grasp on what was really, really strong outside of the ABR, of course. Everything else was fairly well balanced, but you know, these things can change. As far as I'm concerned, though, I think the ABR needs nerfing, and that's pretty much it at this moment in time. I just tried to brush over because, as I said, this is where we're at. It's just the beta so far, but I'm going to move into specialists. But again, these adjustments could come out and be different. The adjustments I'm suggesting after the beta. These are opinions based on when we played the Call of Duty Black Ops 4 beta. I'm going to run through each one, and this could be a little bit long, but for me, I think I've made a couple of valid points on all of them, but I'm going to start with battery. War Machine was pretty decent, but I don't feel like it was too overpowered throughout the beta. It was strong, but not to the point of where I'm literally picking up 7 or 8 kills with it every single time. Saying that, this is me we're talking about. In the hands of a pro, it could be a lot more deadly, but My only issue with battery is that I seem to pick up War Machine quite a lot. I need it to be toned down a little bit for me, Treyarch. I'll be honest. I think if you're picking up War Machine 3 or 4 times during a game, of what, like say for Hardpoint, for instance, then that's so many bricks you're going to be able to get, and it doesn't seem fair. I mean, I know the other team would have that as well, but if we're just grenade launchering each other all the time constantly, it's not what it's about. I think they need to tone it back to 1, maybe 2 if you're having a very good game per game. For me, and then the cluster grenade was okay, but I don't think it was anything too crazy. Yes, it was as strong as any other grenade, but the high health and the heal mechanic allows you to get away, and it's a pretty long time before that blast actually expands out and the clusters do explode, so I think it's not too bad. Recon, I don't hate it. I really don't. Vision Pulse is very, very strong. But again, I think the thing is that the theme that you'll see with my argument with Specialists is that I would like to just see everything toned down a little bit to make it so you are only getting the chance to make those differences in game maybe once, absolutely maximum 2 times per game. I think realistically, any more than that would be a little bit crazy, but back to Recon, I would say that it's something that has to be toned down in terms of amount of times you can use it. The absolute same with the sensor dart as well. I think it's a good tactical thing to have, and it can lead to breaks for teams as well. But I want to see that there potentially some counters in there as well. Of course, when teams are making, I mean, I don't know if we're going to have like a pick and ban phase where you can see what the other team are using, that sort of thing. But at the same time, they can be countered a little bit of Recon. As far as I'm aware, there'll be some sort of ghost or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but there will be something that people can put on to negate the effects of Recon. Seraph, the Annihilator for me was fine. There wasn't much else to say there, but it was more about tac deploy. I don't really want to see it too much, especially in Search and Destroy. Any other game mode, I think you need to tone down the amount of tac deploys you actually get. Obviously, it's a tactical insertion and you can spawn on it multiple times, and they did tone that down, so that's good. But when it comes to Search and Destroy, that's probably where the main argument lies for this to not being competitive, was because you get an extra life per map of Search and Destroy. And obviously, if we've seen this round, both teams have run it, so both teams would have the same amount of lives. But for me, it takes away from what Search and Destroy is. Players can then take more risks. Players can do things out of the ordinary, and then it can come down to moments where somebody's spawning back in, and it can just completely change the game in a different direction. I don't think I want to see it, to be honest with you. The thing is with this, I think you can remove the ability and attach some equipment instead, so players can take a grenade. And for me, I would keep Seraph in, but just maybe remove the option to use the tac deploy, because the Annihilator it's fine. It's just an Annihilator or Black Ops 3, isn't it? It's nothing too crazy. In the hands of somebody good, of course, it'll be insane, but at the same time, I think it's a pretty decent specialist where it is balanced. I think we're pretty much fine. Ruin for me is fine. I think the specialist ability is fine. I think the grappling hook is fine. It's not too overpowered. It's fun to use. It's fun to watch. Flashy players with Ruin would be interesting. So I think I'm quite happy to keep that in there. Crash, again, I'm pretty fine with all of his abilities and equipment. Firebreak, in its final state in the beta, I think it was pretty much fine. Nothing too overpowered, but in comparison to other specials, it was nothing too powerful in comparison to other specialist abilities. Reactor Core could possibly cause some issues, but I think it's very situational, and we'll see how players adapt with it. I think professional players are a lot more clever than me when it comes to using things to their advantage, and that could be used in certain places depending on what game modes we're going to be playing, which I will cover later. But Reactor Core could possibly be a problem, but I don't know yet. I would have to watch that one. I think it's something you keep in at the beginning, and then if it does become something that is a little bit too overpowered, then we can try and move it away possibly. Nomad K9 got a hefty nerf, so I'm okay with that. Mesh mines could be annoying in S&D, but realistically, pro players should be wary of what's going on with those. They shouldn't be caught out too easily by that. And the thing is, when you go to S&D, how often are you going to be getting K9 in S&D? You're going to be able to use it for 1 round, for 5 lives. That's all you can take. So I think realistically, we're okay with K9 as far as mesh mines and general use is concerned. Profit, I think Tempest is a bit too strong at the moment. It got surprisingly buffed towards the end of the beta. I probably want to see it reverted back to where it was. I thought it was very, very powerful anyway, so I was quite happy with where it was on a personal level, but for me, I think the buff was a little bit too much. The Seeker Mine, though, is maybe a little bit of an issue for a lot of people. It is pretty much just a free kill if you can knock somebody with it, and when it comes to Search and Destroy, it can do a lot of things. It's an intel tool, it's a stun tool, it's basically a free kill. A lot of people complain about it, but you can stop it. A quick press of square when you first get shocked by it, which is pretty easy to see happening because you can see it coming towards you, you can see the shock come up, you see press X quickly. I mean, if I was managing to react as quick enough to actually get rid of it majority of the time, then I think pros, excuse me, should be okay. I've left my biggest concerns in terms of specialists for last. Ajax and Talk in their current state, I do not believe should be available in competitive. Talk has two things that can cover different areas of the map. If you're not aware of Talk, it was the barrier with the Guardian inside of it and the barbed wire, sorry. The barrier wouldn't be so bad if the microwave didn't cook you alive so quick. I think that it needs to be toned down. It needs to be made less powerful because it can literally block off doors, which is okay. You can make the argument competitively, like, oh, okay, well, if they block off that door, you have to move to a different side, and they're just trying to dictate the map. But for me, I just think it's a spare tool that doesn't take any skill to use. I think realistically, anybody can throw that down anywhere and get away with some plays that they could try and make. The same sort of thing applies to Razor Wire as well. Why does Razor Wire kill you? I mean, if it does damage, I want to see it do a tiny bit of damage, maybe. Not as much as it did. I think it choked you quite badly at times. And for me, the fact that it takes nearly a clip and a half to get rid of it, I think at one point I remember putting a clip and a half of a cordite into a piece of barbed wire, and it didn't disappear or, fall to pieces. I think it realistically should be something that if you can go up to it, maybe melee it a couple of times, and it'll go. And that's it. Or maybe put a few bullets into it. It's a distraction. Okay, you can keep it in that aspect because, I mean, it wouldn't become as useful, but for me, it's too much to keep in. It's too difficult to get rid of for me. Ajax. The 9-bang isn't my issue here. That's a decent enough tactical. I think as far as a flash is concerned, it's pretty good, but it's not a game breaker. It's not a deal breaker in terms of a game. The shield, though, I mean, he can shoot through it. He becomes basically invulnerable, but he can shoot you with a machine gun as well. I don't think it's viable. I mean, realistically, if they tone down the damage that the shield does take before it smashes, then fair enough. Like, put it down to like 150 damage or 200 damage even, so it can actually be smashed. Then we may actually see it be used in a competitive aspect. But for me, I think those two, Ajax and Talk, at this moment in time, with how they were in the beta, I don't think they've got a place for competitive, personally. Let's move on to the modes now, because I mean, firstly, I'm going to go actually and touch on maps, but it's hard to really say without playing them all, without playing them competitive, without playing them with what game modes we know. It's very, very difficult to talk maps. The ones that I liked, actually, from the beta were Seaside and Frequency. All Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 maps coming in are absolutely fine with me, including Black Ops 3 maps, of course. As far as I'm aware, they've announced Summit, Slums, Firing Range, and Raid to come in Black Ops 4 from previous Black Ops games. I'm happy to have them in. As long as they worked in previous competitive titles, they should work here as well. Let's talk modes. Hardpoint, first and foremost. Seems to be a lot of questions around Hardpoint and what people want to see. For me, I'd like to see it stay. With 5v5 being introduced and the speed of this game, I feel like it could be a little bit chaotic. That has been one of the biggest issues. And I actually discussed with Lando something that could change in Hardpoint that could make it a bit more viable. Maybe give it a spawn timer. Maybe even just like a couple of seconds is absolutely fine. That would slow things down, make your engagements a little bit more important at that point. Teams can start racking up points if they clear 5 members. I think it means your lives become a lot more important, and with having this many people on the field, if your lives weren't as important and you could just run in and respawn instantly, it's just going to be constant, crazy. I think it needs to be slowed down a little bit. Even a second or two would be enough for me to keep Hardpoint. I think it should be fine. In terms of maps, as I said, it's hard to discuss without having a good basis to say, we don't have a full sample to really choose from at this moment in time because we don't know all the maps yet. We haven't played all the maps yet. Search and Destroy. I'm liking the idea of Search and Destroy 5v5. Things, again, will have to slow down. You can't... I mean, we've seen complaints of people saying they were playing Search and Destroy in the beta in a couple of tournaments, obviously when you try and match up in a public game against another team. And it was a little bit fast in terms of players just cramming 5 people into a bomb site on attack, or just running it five-man running. You know what, like we used to see in IW, where, I mean, Luminosity were easily the best at this, and they were just jumping around at the same time and challenging things as a 4. They said it was a little bit like that, but I think in this game, you realistically can post yourself up, wait for the push to come, and any team who have a good setup, and it was Reedy who actually made this good point on Spitfire, which I will link somewhere here. I think he made the good point of, if you are set up on a bomb site, this shouldn't be able to be happen to your team. The thing is, you can put the shots in, the team would have to back off and heal up. It's the same for the defender. You know, if he takes a couple of shots or sees 5 people running at them, he can back up and try and heal up. It's not an impossible scenario to try and fight back against in Search and Destroy. So I don't think that's too much of a big argument for Search and Destroy 5v5. I think it'll work good. I think it'll be nice to watch. Moving on to probably my biggest point from all this, I think CTF might have to go. To be honest with you, I think last year it was fairly slow, and that was in World War II, and Black Ops 4 is not the same game as World War II, of course. It is a lot faster, but adding an extra body onto each team is going to slow down the game mode significantly. I think teams could afford to keep one camper at the back at this point, which we used to see in Black Ops 3 from time to time. We don't want that. I think 5v5 is too much for CTF. It's going to be a low-scoring game. We already had low-scoring games in World War II when we were playing 4v4. I would imagine in 5v5, CTF might be a bit too low-scoring for me. As said, though, this is all based off what we played in the beta, which wasn't CTF. But from a theory point of view, I just don't think it works out too well. Which brings me on to my next argument. I think we should try Control. I really do. I think I know the community, and especially Reddit, will be bashing me in the comments right now, saying, well, you can't depend it on kills. You know, you've only got so many lives. People will camp one bomb site. Yes, okay, you make some valid points. But for me, I know the pros have played this against each other at some point, and I know that they actually enjoyed it. So, I mean, that is a big thing. On top of this, Treyarch are typically very, very good at introducing new things into Call of Duty, into our esport, I should say. They introduced Hardpoint. At first, I was a little bit wary about Hardpoint. Turns out it was one of the best game modes they've ever brought in. It's one of the most exciting. It's fast. It's good to watch if you understand what's going on. Then they brought in the Concaster as well. I mean, they've implemented a lot of things that have become mainstays in our esport. I mean, what was it? Score streaks as well. David Van der Haar said, oh yeah, we're bringing them in. Nobody really wanted them in. They're still here now. You know, the score streaks are a big part of how Call of Duty operates as an esport. So for me, I think we have to trust Treyarch with this game mode. We have to give it a go. That's probably where my argument ends for this one, because for me, I think it's a really important argument. I think the pros are already enjoying it in the player tests. Admittedly, how sweaty they were, I don't know. But Treyarch are typically very, very good at introducing things. Can they strike lucky again? I'd like to hope so, but I would like to see Control. So I would like to see us play Control, twice play S&D. Oh, sorry, Control once, play S&D twice, and Hardpoint twice as our best out of 5. But I've rambled on for a little while here, actually. What are we at now? Nearly 20 minutes. This might be 2 videos. Who knows? I'll decide when I chop it up. But I feel like I've been rambling on for a while. Whatever does happen, excuse me, whatever does actually happen, I think we're in for a fantastic year, to be honest with you. I think the game looks amazing. Blackout was sensational. I was really hoping he was going to bring it back yesterday, but he didn't. Damn you, David Van der Haar, you give and you take away. But for me, I think we're in for a sensational year. I think it's going to be a very, very good year on every single standpoint. Pubs are going to be fun. Blackout's going to be amazing. Esports is going to be even better than it was last year. The competition is going to be fantastic. I cannot wait for Vegas, by the way. If December can just tick itself along and get here as soon as possible, that would be great. That would be sensational. Anyway, guys, thank you very, very much for watching this video. If you can leave a like and maybe even subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. We're trying to grow this channel as quickly as we can, as best we can as well. I'm pumping out as much content as I can even think about pumping out. You might actually watch me playing games that you don't care about, but I would love your input, what you would like to see. More discussions around the announcement that happened on Wednesday gone are coming, and we will see that throughout the rest of the weekend. But I will see you on that next video very, very shortly, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.